will not spread more hate than is necessary in this world. I want only love, but dear Lord, these boys are trying my patience. Hello and welcome to Chapter 5 of Love People Use Things Book Club. Woohoo! Let's do it! Look, money is a very personal thing, and I am going to straight up, right here, right now, let you know I am not a financial planner. If I was, I wouldn't be making YouTube videos. Or maybe I would. But this chapter on money, by two people who are also not financial planners, gave me a harder time than a lot of things. If you know nothing about money, this is probably a good place to start. But if you know anything about money, and you've lived through the last, I don't know, 40 years of financial uncertainty, this chapter was a little bit infuriating. But I will get to that on its own time. Let's jump into the questions. Question 1. Describe your relationship with money. Is it healthy or unhealthy? Why? My relationship with money is getting better. I thought of money as a direct transaction. I needed to make this amount of money in order to pay these bills, which is one way to do it. But that isn't a really great way to grow generational wealth. All that to say, my relationship with money is getting better because I am starting to research and try to understand it a little bit more. I think that's probably a lot of millennials' hangups, is that we feel like we should just know how to do the stock market. I don't know anybody who knows just how to do the stock market. We have to teach ourselves, and we were never really taught, at least none of the people that I am exposed to. So I don't have enough knowledge to manipulate money creatively in a way that feels very adult and feels like I could actually have an opportunity to get ahead. I recently did a complete breakdown of that question with another financial person that I find much better, which I will talk about at the end of this video, and recommend that you do her things instead, because I think you'll get more out of it than that very surface, but still very important question. Question 2. What stress, if any, do you experience regarding money? I think that question is absurd. I think it's rude. I think it's frustrating. Of course everybody has money problems. Of course everybody thinks and worries about money. What stress, if any? Get out of my face. Everybody's got stress with money. But let's talk about just a few of them. I never feel like I have enough. Like everybody else on the planet. From the homeless person living on the corner to Jeff Bezos, apparently. But like any person probably my age, I worry about long-term having enough money. And I don't think that's just a response to COVID. I want to make sure I can put my future kids through college. I want to make sure I can pay my mortgage. I want to make sure that one day I will be able to go on a trip with my husband again. I think those problems are problems people have always had. I just never really thought that it might be my problem. I kind of just thought I would get a job and make enough money. And then I became an adult and realized that that's not how the world works. Wish someone would have told me. Question 3. What non-essential expenses are busting your budget? What? I'm not gonna bring more hate than I need to. Not gonna bring. I'm drinking tea to prevent myself from cursing as much. I've had it with these questions. I've absolutely had it. This question is bullshit. By the definition the minimalists give for non-essential. Because their definition, as stated in many previous chapters, is anything that's essentially not the roof above your head, the clothes on your back, and the food you're putting in your mouth. So, by that definition, is my extra set of clothes non-essential and therefore something that's busting my budget? Is the food I've got for next week something that's busting my budget? Is this camera something that is non-essential and that is busting my budget, even though it's how I make a living? Now look, I think they're referring to the people who spend $400 a month on coffee or on designer clothes or on literally anything else, and that's fine. But I don't think that's who they're talking to. Because if we're reading this book, we're probably not those people. It's become very popular right now to sit and drag on millennials who just go out and get avocado toast and get coffee with 100 different ingredients in it. And I understand that that's not the most reasonable and responsible way to spend $10 a day. However, I'm definitely in the mindset, especially during COVID, that You do what you need to do in order to get through the day. I would like to give a better question. A question that's a little more inclusive and a little less judgy. How can you stop buying the things that don't make you happy and decrease the amount you spend on things you need to live more in line with your income? Incredible what a little writing can do. I don't think I could roll my eyes more in this video if I tried. Through minimalism, I have done my better question. I have stopped buying things that don't actually make me happy. As much as I miss seeing all the beautiful things in Marshalls and Home Goods, it's fine. It's fine. Because those things never made me happy. What really makes me happy is a clean house, and with less stuff in it, it's easier to clean. I'm able to also decrease the amount of money I spent on things that I actually need by thinking smarter about how we spend our money on groceries, on our utilities. By saving electricity and being more environmentally friendly, I have saved money. It's really not that hard, and it can be a lot less judgy than these freaking questions. Question 4. What plans, if any, have you made for retirement? I'm not gonna nitpick this question because I told myself I wasn't gonna curse too much in this video, but people who are barely paying rent really are gonna have a hard time sympathizing and taking the advice of 2 wealthy white men about saving for retirement. Is it important? 100%. But I am a middle-class white woman in suburbia who did not start saving for retirement until this year. What are the problems with that? Oh, because I wasn't taught about money, because I was a girl and wasn't expected to know anything about it. Was there another problem with the fact that I was living paycheck to paycheck just like so many other freaking people because the economy is trash and I trust no one? Was I also an artist and a freelancer where your income is not particularly regular, and therefore I couldn't commit a certain amount to retirement every month, not even $10, because sometimes I didn't even know if I had $10 to put in there. I said I wasn't gonna nitpick. And it's not even that I didn't have the money. It was also I didn't know what resources I could use to figure out how to retire and how to save for retirement. That was not something that was common knowledge. And you can sit here all day and say there's all sorts of stuff on the internet for this kind of stuff, but if you're not aware of it, how are you supposed to find it? And people who are working paycheck to paycheck don't have time to scour the internet to figure out how to retire. And here's the new problem, if I'm not gonna nitpick. Yes, I've started to save for retirement, just barely, but now I have to put that money on pause to try to buy a house, because now, apparently, the price of a home is not actually the price of the home, and you have to save 30, 40, 60 million dollars over the price of the house in order to even try to find a place to live. And trying to figure out the resources that do exist is frustrating, unmotivating. It's absolutely awful. I freaking hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Question 5. What changes will you make to improve your spending habits and your relationship with money? Luckily, if you're doing minimalism right, your relationship with money changes immediately. You stop spending money. Period. At least I did, because it forced me to stop intaking things so I could manage the things that I already had and start outputting things. Is that how I should say that? So if you're taking the tenets of minimalism seriously, the idea that, you know, you use only what you need, you keep only what you need and what makes you happy, and you really listen to that, then your spending stops immediately. Not there is always obviously more that I can do to implement some of those things into my life, but the money is almost not a side effect. What's the word I'm looking for? But it's not about the money. The money changes if you take into your life the things that minimalism teaches and the values that you have. I think so much harder before I buy things, which generally means that I don't buy things. I don't buy the cheap option of something multiple times. I buy the little more expensive option much less, and therefore saving money in the long run. Like, a lot of money. Like, we're gonna buy this house with just money that we've saved from not buying trash. Or borrow things. There are so many alternatives to buying things. So many. Anyway, those are those questions. It's taken me so long to make this video because I'm just so mad about it. It's just, they are writing from their point of view, and that's wonderful. I'd like to tell them that their point of view is elitist. So let's talk about the do's and don'ts of money real quick. Also, way to add a ton more questions in the do's and don'ts. I don't got time. None of us have time. If you want to do them, fine, but I'm not going to go through them with you. So all of these like things that Ryan wants you to do in the do's section. I wish they had spent the entire chapter on that, but that's fine. We're almost word for word stolen from Tori Dunlap of her first 100K. A total badass bitch that you 100% need to follow on Instagram if you do not already, and TikTok. She's fabulous. She's non-judgmental except of the white man patriarchy. And is notoriously not a fan of Dave Ramsey, which the Minimalists are friends with. Now look, I did the Dave Ramsey program as my honors econ course in high school, because yay, Georgia Public Schools. So I'm familiar with his premise. The premise that if you are in debt, the only time you should see the inside of a restaurant is if you're working in one. Holy shit. That is not a way to make people want to work on something that they don't like, i.e. money, because no one likes working on money because it's hard and complicated and full of stigma and judgment. Anyway, so if you actually want to get into these questions in a way better way, go look at Tori Dunlap. She's wonderful. Also, Tiffany at the Budgetnista, fabulous. She was one of the first people when COVID hit that I turned to her resources and was like, what do I do? And her stuff, yet again, unjudgmental, actually helpful for the way that people live today in the real world. And in terms of their budgeting rules here in the do's section, frustrating. It's hard to make a budget when you work in the gig economy because you don't know how much money you're going to make every month. I don't make a budget at the beginning of my month. I make my budget at the end of my month. Let me break it down. My suggestion is to work backwards. Write down what you have to spend money on, i.e. your rent, your minimums on your credit card, your car payment, the average number of what your bills actually are. That's how much money you have to make. Take how much money you made last month, subtract the stuff that you have to pay this month. Anything left goes into savings. And then you only buy what you actually need. Because the idea of being like, how much money will I make this month, is not something you can do if you drive for Lyft. And the don'ts. Don't go into debt. Fuck off. In a world where we are in a student loan crisis and everybody we know has tens of thousands of dollars of debt that they signed on to when they were 18 years old, this is not a fair thing to say. How dare you? How dare you? Now, I agree. If you have $30,000 in credit card debt, maybe don't go buy a new TV every year. Sure, that is not how this is reading. This is very much a, just don't buy stuff. It's not how the world works. It's also not how the economy works. If people stop buying things, we're screwed. Now, can we limit the things that we buy? Absolutely. But we 100% can't be just guilting people for actually being in debt. Because at this point, it's too late. We're already in a debt crisis. So how is this advice helpful? Whoo! I'm just calling it like I see it. So that was chapter 5 of Love People Use Things. I hope that the rest of this book is not as judgy and awful as this chapter was. I just don't think anybody can do a surface job talking about money. You know what I mean? I know why this chapter was definitely included in this book, but dear God, if you're actually wanting to do some good and change people's minds about minimalism, and especially minimalism with money, you can't just do a broad sweep like this. You need to pick a topic, dive deep, and actually help people instead of just guilting people for their scenario. That's how I felt. And I'm not in any student loan debt. I own my car. I'm in a better financial position than most people, and I was offended by this chapter. Just because we're all not big, huge, fancy, minimal people with podcasts and YouTube videos and book deals, and we give our money away to run a coffee shop in Florida, doesn't mean that we're financially irresponsible. The game is rigged against 99% of the people on this planet. So instead of guilting us into saying, don't go into debt, how about we start trying to fix the bigger problem? Anyway, thanks for watching. I feel better. Now I've got to go do yoga and meditate to put myself back on the right track. We'll get into chapter 6 next, creativity. Promise it won't take as long to put out as this one did. But I am a creative. So if I gotta spill some more tea in this next chapter, I will. Have a great day.